Welcome, Garlic Marketing Show. This might be the second most important episode. The first being how to work with me. But no, seriously, this one's just crammed full with one of the smartest people I know in marketing and business, Kasim Aslam. Kasim, say hi.
Hi.
So we're gonna talk. He's gonna talk about how to hire, the best hiring book ever, the number one secret to hiring great, how to get his book really quickly. We're gonna talk AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. He's got more data than anyone. He's going to show us exactly the ranking factors that they're seeing to rank when ChatGPT is asked to work with you. And we're going to talk about analyzing Hormozi's $100 million launch on this Garlic Marketing Show. If you don't listen to this whole thing, you hate success and money. Of course, this is brought to you by videocasestory.com. One of the best things you can do for your business is collect your customer stories. The best thing you can do for your YouTube is have amazing customer stories. Kasim did really good with his video case story on his channel.
Highest performing ad I've ever run was your video case story. That's a true story.
Go to videocasestory.com/closer where we'll teach you how to use YouTube and video case stories to close six-figure deals. All right, let's get started.
My name is Gino Wickman. I was introduced to Ian, and that's what brought me into this video world and got me embracing this video world. And Ian did exactly what I hoped. He got me really comfortable with putting videos out to the world and having a great strategy around putting videos out to the world, because there's so much more than just shooting a video. And so the way that he positions those videos, optimizes those videos, he's done a great job.
All right. One of the smartest people out there, especially when it comes to marketing. And he couldn't make it, so Kasim's here. No, I'm just kidding. Kasim Aslam, returning three-time guest, leader of the Driven Mastermind. Folks, amazing mastermind. If you have any type of information, e-commerce business, you need to check it out. And then also the author of a new book, Hired. Let's see that
just hire.
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 H-I-R-E, hire. And
and I didn't tell you this, Ian. Your audience can have the book for free, no strings attached, no ascension, none of that. We have an advanced reader copy just for them.
What? ARC.
Oh yeah.
And we'll put how do they get that?
They just go to thehireBook.com. They don't just get the book, they get the cheat sheet, the workbook, they get the audio book. I had my team put together a global job board. It's a database of every single job board in the world, organized by region and by category. And they get all the templates.
What?
And so with this book, this is the greatest book on hiring ever written, which isn't really me bragging, to be honest, because I didn't write it as much as I amalgamated it. I'm just an excellent thief. I spent 20 years studying this topic, and I just put everything I learned in the book. They get all of that when they go to thehireBook.com. They get it instantly. Again, no strings attached, no ascension. There's no course on the back end. I'm not going to try to sell them anything. What I might do is ask them if they hire somebody using my process and it's successful to tag me on social, and then I'll give them a free course on how to get that person started. But my goal in life is to be synonymous with the word hire. I want, if somebody's like, oh, I need to hire somebody, I want the whole world to be like, oh, you need Kasim's book, and here it is for free. So they get all that stuff. They're 7 days away from the greatest hire of their life.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And I love it. And have you studied Walt Disney much when it comes to this stuff?
A little bit. You know who actually put me onto him is Petrullo. She goes on and on about Disney, dude. It's weird.
I was just at a Storybook Mansion, and for a meeting, I got to meet some of them. Floyd, I forgot his last name, and Tanya Norris, who both worked with Walt, and it's amazing the echoes of working with him 60 years later. She's 88, and you can still see it in their face that what Walt did for them as a hire and a manager. And Bob Gert too.
Wow.
Who invented the monorail. I mean, those are amazing stories. Like I've done podcasts on this, but the amazing part is like Bob Gert was a designer, and he's like, "Oh, can you draw me?" Walt's like, "You can draw me a car," and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, build the car." And he's like, "I'm not an engineer." He's like, "You'll figure it out." and like that was Walt's method. But I think you should look at some of that stuff, talk to some of the people, just because it's amazing, the echoes of Walt. But I'm going to leave that there because your book, thehireBook.com. Okay, that's the end of the podcast. You guys can go get it. Talk to you later, Kasim. So, we talked last time about hiring, and I'm going to take a lot of notes here because I'm pulling up my notes. But what got you so obsessed? When was the moment you got obsessed with hiring?
Dude, so I have a thesis. Can I give you my thesis, Ian?
Can I stop you? No, I'm just kidding. I love you.
No, no. This is my show now. I own this. Stop me if I start to bore people. So you asked the question, what got me obsessed with hiring? Entrepreneurship is brutal, dude. It's brutal. And as a young entrepreneur, every problem I encountered was my problem. It's like, oh, I have a bookkeeping problem. I have to learn bookkeeping. Oh, I have a website problem. I have to learn websites. Oh, I have a fulfillment problem. I have to learn the fulfillment. Insert problem here, and you have to learn it. And that's the way that we're all taught to do it. Is go wear all the hats, spin all the plates, keep all the balls in the air. Choose your analogy. Here's what's really interesting is when you crack the code on hiring, you don't have to be good at anything else ever again. And I'm not being hyperbolic and I'm not exaggerating. As a matter of fact, I really believe that entrepreneurship is talent acquisition. When you're good at finding the who, it's Dan Sullivan's Who Not How, you don't. I built the number one ranked Google Ads agency in the world. I had $100 million in ad spend under management. I sold that business for 8 figures. I've never run a Google ad campaign myself end to end in my life. I had the highest performing real estate investment campaign on the planet or in the United States before I knew anything about real estate investing or lead generation. I own the largest English speaking Montessori community in the world. And I'm not a trained Montessorian, and I didn't go to a Montessori school, and I don't own a Montessori school. And it's because I've cracked talent. There's no industry I can't conquer. There's nothing I can't do because I know talent. So if you're like, oh, you need a neurosurgeon, you need a rocket scientist, you need a graphic designer, it's like, great, I can go do that. And I know exactly how to do that. And then the best part is I get out of the way. I have a portfolio of 17 businesses, all of which, by the way, it's not 17 domain names, 17 real entities that actually churn money, a lot of them, a lot of money. And I don't run a single one of them day to day. My favorite answer to every question is I don't know. Hey, Costum, where's the thing? I don't know. When is the? I don't know. Who does? I don't know. But then the question, what I do know is here's who you can go ask. Go ask this person. And it's because I've cracked hiring. If you're listening to this and you're overwhelmed and you feel like you're alone and you're burning the candle at both ends, go crack hiring. My book is free. You don't need to hire through me. You don't need to go to my recruiting agency. I promise you, you're 7 steps away from the greatest hire ever in the history of your life. And it will change the trajectory of your entrepreneurial life. Once you really figure out the value of what I term Pareto Talent, Pareto referring to the mathematical principle, the 80-20 rule. Pareto Talent refers to the 20% of the people that actually do 80% of the work. When you figure out how to go find those people, and there's a formula for it, it'll change everything.
I love it. It's true.
Thesis done.
But it's so true because, we were talking about Walt. You look at Apple, Steve Jobs never coded anything. He never hand built anything.
No. Dude, he wasn't an engineer.
He wasn't an engineer.
He was just like a batshit insane kind of free thinker who then, what's his name? Who's the redheaded comedian who yells a lot? Bill Burr. Bill Burr has this really funny shtick on Steve Jobs. He was telling Conan, he's like, I'm not impressed with him at all. And Conan's like, why? And he's like, he didn't build anything. He would just run into a room and say, I want all my music on this phone. Get on it. And like, you laugh at that. And that's actually who you should be, Mr. or Ms. Entrepreneur. Elon Musk is the same way. Edison was the same way.
Oh, yeah.
He was a prick. Like all these outstanding successes, they don't do. Trying to do is actually a limitation. It's a constraint. Stop doing. Entrepreneurship is not fulfillment.
No. I'm very, very guilty of that. I love to learn things and love to do it. And, I think another quality, and this is fantastic, but another quality is, and I got to, you've always been great and we've always talked and we were always friends. And when we finally got to meet in person for the first time and hang out, is seeing how you handle people. And you're really, really good at every person you encounter, how to talk to them, pay attention to them, make them feel seen. Like every single person, we were in Vegas in the hotel and I noticed it, like, boom, every single person that we encountered, you made them feel special. Is that a skill?
That's kind of,
well, it's impressive. And, I try and do it, but you did it at a whole nother level. And it's not like I try to make them, I don't want to be a people pleaser, but it's important to make the people feel seen. And I sometimes can be bad at that. Is that a skill that you've developed? Or is that just,
it's funny. The dedication of my book reads, for Greg Smith, who taught me to see people as miracles.
There you go.
Greg Smith is my business mentor. He's been my business mentor since I was 19 years old. I'm 40 now, so it's 21 years that I've known this man. He's one of the most extraordinary humans I've ever known in my life for so many reasons. And Greg is the one that taught me. It's crazy, dude, because when Greg introduces you to somebody, it took me 10 years to realize this. I used to think, I'm like, Greg knows the most amazing people. Because he would introduce you and he'd be like, hey, Kasim, this is Ian Garlic. Let me tell you about him. He owns one of the largest video case story businesses in the world. He actually invented the category. He's created more media pound for pound than anybody I've met. He's worked with this person, this person, this person, this person. And then he talks about this person he's introducing. And I'm like, wow, Ian is a miracle. How lucky am I to know Ian, to meet Ian, to be with Ian? And then 10 years into it, I realized I'm like, oh, Greg does that with everybody. And the thing about it is you can have two perceptions of that. You could be like, oh, he's been fluffing up all these people. He's just, trying to make these people look big so he looks important. Or everybody is a literal miracle. Every human you encounter really has a reason that they are extraordinary, that there's something so special about them that they should be celebrated, that when you introduce them, you should put them up with lights on them on a pedestal. Everybody. Yeah. I really believe that. I think it's a religious truth. And Greg taught me, dude, everybody's a miracle. And if you're willing to approach them that way, the fun thing too, there's a quote, it's Goethe, whose name I know I'm mispronouncing, but the German philosopher, he says that if you treat a man as he is, he'll remain as he is. But if you treat him as he can and should be, then, and I forget how it ends, but it's something like he'll rise to that occasion. And dude, I like to say I love people. But you know what's funny about that, Ian? Everybody does. It's built in us. It's human. It's genetic. It's epigenetic. It's encoded. Like people, it gets beat out of us as we get older. But you take little kids, when my kids were little, 2, 3, 4 years old, they'd run up. My little brother's, he was a convict, 6 years on a 4-yard, hardcore, like tough as nails. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of his friends were convicts, ex-cons, went through the life. And I always thought it was so interesting because I'd have my 3-year-old little boy, Sammy, and he'd run up to a friend of my brother's who is just grizzled veteran convict, tattooed head to toe, teardrop, just brutalized knuckles, clearly like the human that you would cross the street in order to not pass on the sidewalk. And my boy, Sammy, didn't know, didn't care. For him, that was just, Mr. Jesse or whatever, my brother's friend. Because kids love, dude, they love everybody. And they really do. You see that with children to where like race, gender, background, clothing, like all that stuff feels superfluous to like, oh, you're interesting. Who are you? And I think as adults, you can actually recapture that. You can recapture this knowing that in you is a God-given miracle. In you is actually, you're just an animated meat suit. But the thing that's animating you is a splinter of all that which is divine. And every religious tradition teaches that. And even if you're not religious, you could be a rabid atheist, but you have to acknowledge the absolute improbability of this ultra smart super ape floating around on this flying rock, sending shit into space. You know what I mean? Like, dude, we're nuts. And everybody feels with a handful of exceptions, if a little kid falls down, everybody's going to help him up. If you get a flat tire, most people will help given the opportunity and the resources. And the only thing that separates people is when they start to feel afraid. But if you can divorce fear from it, dude, people are miracles and everybody knows it.
Love that. So important. Now but everyone is a miracle. It's such an important thing. And I forget what I was listening to, but Kevin Smith talks about it in his book too, which is another fantastic book. Kevin Smith from Clerks and everything, and he talks about it's like you think about your parents had to meet, and the chances of them meeting and then them having sex and then it working, and all those cells working, and every little thing that had to happen. What a miracle we all are. And then if you start to think about the fact that you can blink and breathe without thinking about it, and it is amazing, and it's such a good way to look at the world, and transforms it because because you have Pareto Talent, and I think one of the things I learned early on too, that I love my team, and most of them are remote now, and I hate the word VA, I hate the term VA because it's like they're not a virtual person. It's a real person doing real things. And I think this is I see this so often in hiring, that people look at them as things, not just virtual assistants, but people. And, I saw Richard Branson the other day walking along thanking every single person as he got on one of his ships, right? I mean, it's just an amazing way to think about hiring. And I can't wait to read the book. We'll put a link in the show notes. If you have, because I want to move on to AEO and YouTube, because you're brilliant at all this stuff, and I'm gonna be selfish, and also the more we stuff with tips and tricks, the more people are gonna watch this. So, what's your number one tip for hiring great people?
Treat it like a sales funnel.
Yes.
Treat it like a sales funnel. What people do when they're hiring, they take on this weird, they put on their HR hat, which is stupid. I don't know why you have that hat. Throw that away. And then go read any job post. Just pull up Monster or Jobbing or Indeed and read any job post. And it's always some gobbledygook garbage of like, you must comply with all rules and regulations or you will be publicly filed. Like it's just, if you really want peak performers, you have to, it's an offer letter.
It's an offer.
And you have to do, the number of entrepreneurs that will post their job posting on one job board, one time, and then just like, well, this is what the cat dragged in. This is, you know what I mean? It's like, if you treat it like a sales funnel, number one, you think about your offer, which means you want to pay more, you want to give more, you want to really attract people, you want to put your best foot forward, you want to sound like a fun place to work, you want to treat them like real adults. It's a sales funnel, It's a sales letter. And then it's also a traffic problem, like all sales letters. Get it out there, promote, you know what I mean? Like, God forbid you put it on a couple of different job boards and maybe you put some money behind it, and maybe you put it up on social and maybe you share it with people. If you do that, the number of applications you get will blow your mind. It'll actually overwhelm you, which is part of what the book is about. I teach people how to filter through that automatically without having to waste any time. But that's the number one piece of advice is it's a sales job. You are marketing.
It is. I came to that. It's funny how like Kasim and I come to the same conclusions. We'll talk about more of it. But like I figured that out like 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And I'm like, well, I want to attract people. Why don't I do the same thing I'm using to attract business? I attract people. And like wrote a sales letter, right? And it's like, hey, do you want to do this? And you want to do that? Do you love The Office? Because we love The Office, but not actually coming to The Office, the TV show. And people be like, yours was the best. And like we would fill up, I'm in my office right now and there's no one here, but we'd fill up like 30, 40 people, coming in. And because it shows you care about them. And like you said, if you want to stand out, write to the person, because the rest of them are like, this is what I want, me. Like if you went on a date and you did that, right? What a horrible date you would be. Like, this is what I want.
Yeah, dude, I've been on those dates. I've been with people that are like, this is who I am, this is what I need, this is who you must be, these are the boxes you must check, and it's just like, wow. And you're right, that's how people hire. What a perfect analogy. Don't hire like the spoiled person dates. Quote Ian Garland.
Well, you can quote it. Yeah. You can have it. I'll sign it.
I steal it.
So I'm going to move on because we've talked about Pareto Talent before, and you can check out that episode, and you can read the book and listen to this beautiful. Did you read the audiobook yourself?
I did.
Nice.
I did. I don't know if it's any good.
Sure.
Dude. It's the first time I've ever done it. My business. So I did the first chapter, and Yvonne, my business partner, called me and he goes, "You have to do this over. And you need to stop sounding so freaking excited." He was like, "You're hard to listen to," because I guess it came off as a Billy Mays infomercial. I'm Kasim. I'm gonna teach you. So I tried to peel it back a little bit, but to me it sounds very monotone. So if you listen, tell me how I did.
I will be listening to it on the way home.
All right.
And so I'm gonna move on, and this is abrupt, and I'd like to usually segue, but we could talk about AI and hiring. But AEO, answer engine that's what it stands for, answer engine optimization, correct?
Answer engine optimization, yeah.
I've talked about this. I've done a lot of research. You said you've done the most research of anyone. I believe you. It's the coming wave. I've always wondered what was going to overtake Google. I didn't think it was. I was like, what's going to overtake it? And then it just makes so much sense. Let's explain real quick what it is, and then what's going to happen on it.
So everybody knows what SEO is, The SEO is the process by which you attempt to make it so that when somebody searches for a phrase relevant to you or your offering, Google shows you first or close to first. That's SEO in a nutshell. AEO is that, but for LLMs. So ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Grok, etc., Gemini. It's the process by which you attempt to be the citation. Now, you can't use the word rank because you don't rank in LLMs the way you rank in search. And it's really important to allow for the paradigm shift. Talking to ChatGPT is ChatGPT is not a search engine. LLMs are not search engines. A search engine is an interstellar spaceship that will take you to the galaxy of your choosing. So you might say, like, gosh, I need to buy a new car. And, I just had a new kid and I've got 4 kids now. So I actually need like a third row, and safety is important. And one of my kids has special needs. So I actually need a very special car seat, and on, right? So take that. And now 2 paradigms. The search paradigm is, all right, the first thing I need to understand is the special needs thing, because that's most important to me. So interstellar space engine, that is search, bring me to the galaxy that talks about vehicles best suited for children with special needs. And then you go throughout the galaxy and go through all the planets and compile all the information and pull it all together to the best of your abilities. And then you have it, and then you go back. And then you're like, all right, now interstellar space ship, take me to the galaxy that talks about reliability of price or whatever. And you're jetting off to all these galaxies, compiling all this information and coming back. That's search. LLMs, answer engines, are you staying here telling this super smart robot, hey, this is my criteria, here's my desired end result, do that. And it goes to the galaxies, does all the research, compiles it, goes back, goes to the galaxy, compiles it, compares it, compresses it, distills it, amalgamates it, and then alchemizes it into, here's an answer and a recommendation. And people have to understand the difference. Because if you treat answer engines like search, first of all, you're using it wrong. Second of all, it divorces you from the necessary context of engaging with this thing in a way that allows you to use it for your best benefit, and more importantly, that allows you to ultimately be the answer that it provides people when they ask somebody something that pertains to your business. How did I do there?
Good. It's interesting that where we've come to, right? And now you look at, when I go to Google, I'm like, I don't want, like this is too much work now for me to go through and read these articles, right?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and also it's kind of garbage. It's like when I talk to Alexa now, I'm like, why are you so stupid, Alexa? Sorry, Alexa, I know you can hear me. But
Alexa, order 5,000 AA batteries.
I got my headphones in. That's great. Oh man, I need to do that to someone while I'm on speaker.
We just screwed every listener to your podcast though, because half of them who are at home are like,
I have to put a warning at the beginning of this: don't listen to it without headphones. Don't listen.
yeah.
So, folks, thinking about this, I really want you to think about this, because it's going to be the differentiator for a lot of businesses. I have clients.
Oh, bro, this is the most important thing for you to do. This is a category kingmaker to a degree. Imagine knowing what you know now and being able to go back to 1992 and start buying domains and doing SEO. That's where you are. You get to start now.
What signals are you seeing right now? Because I've got clients that are getting the calls. And I want to know what signals you're seeing are the most important for
Well, Iron Garlic, I normally wouldn't tell people my secret sauce, but seeing as we're such close friends. So here's the context. I have 6 employees, 1 supervisor and 5 technicians, who have done nothing for the last 12 months but research how LLMs source their citations. And we've done it in a very disciplined fashion. And I'll actually show you. I realize that a lot of your audience are listener only, so we'll do our best to describe what it is that we're about to see. But
they have to go to YouTube. Just go to YouTube. Don't worry about
it. Yeah. So here's a snapshot in time. This is June 11, 2025. The young man who did this research, his name is Mateen. And we do research across 10 categories of information. So the categories are the usual suspects: local brick and mortar, e-com, SaaS, professional services, info, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What you're looking at here is research for local brick and mortar. And so what Mateen is tasked with doing every single business day for the last year is 20 queries. So query number 1, best boutique coffee shop in Kingman, Arizona. Query number 2, where to find specialty coffee in Kingman, Arizona. Query number 3, top rated artisan cafe in Kingman, Arizona, all the way down to query number 20. And the reason we do Kingman, by the way, is because if we did like Manhattan, it becomes more difficult to identify the hierarchical structure with something like a coffee shop.
Yeah.
But if you do Kingman, there are fewer coffee shops, and so the information is easier to distill. So I'm looking at niche. You'll also notice ultra high commercial intent, best, boutique. Like those phrases help you determine LLM's, what would you call it, intent-based delivery of information. So he does this query, and he does this query across 3 different LLMs. Now we're trying to reverse engineer all of them, but the data crunching gets harder if you do more than 3. And so we'll use every single LLM. In this particular example, it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini. And what we do is we ask ChatGPT, best boutique coffee shop in Kingman, Arizona. And then ChatGPT gives us an answer. But the answer comes with citations. So here are all the citations listed in order of how they were shown, in what would you call it, chronological order. Then we do a bunch of things. We take the citation, and we study it across every level of analysis you would assume as somebody who knows SEO. So we're looking at things like Ahrefs ranks, backlinks, page speed, schema validator, 30, 40, 50 different data points depending on the category that we're talking about, website type, key phrase matching. The other thing that we do is we test it against organic search position. So does this show up in Google search, and if so, where? And you'll notice that in this particular instance, ChatGPT's first citation is Google's 4th. And their 5th citation is Google's 1st. I've got a little spinning screen, Ian. Is that bad?
Yeah, I'm taking a picture.
Oh, wonderful.
I took a picture because I'm going to use this for marketing.
I got scared. I was like, is something about to break? So here's where things go crazy, dude. I'm going to download that. There we are. So here's where things go crazy. So I asked that query of ChatGPT and Perplexity and Gemini. Now, a couple of things. You asked what I'm seeing from a ranking perspective. Now, remember, I have 5 people who every single business day for the last year have done 20 queries. So that's 20 queries for, I don't know how many business days are in a year, times 270 some odd days, times 5 people, times the average number of citations, which is about 6 to 7, times 30 to 50 data points. I have more data on this than any human alive, except maybe Monique Vaughn, by the way, who's a friend and owns Search Atlas. Here's what we found. Guess what this single most important key performance indicator LLM citation is?
I've seen story, but it's
going to blow your mind because it blew my mind. So the single most important key performance indicator for ranking is links. Strength of backlinks, number of backlinks. It always has, not always. It's been that way for about 10 years. By links, that's SEO. SEOs like to argue with me. They're wrong. SEO is link building. Link building to SEO is schema to AEO. Answer engines love schema. Here's the thing. I didn't know what the hell schema was, dude. I built websites 20 years ago. I had to go back and realize, schema is metadata, but it's a very specific type of metadata. It's like the table of contents for your website, which puts us back in SEO circa 2004, where you could just keyword fluff. If you have ultra clean schema, that is the prerequisite to ranking to being cited inside of LLMs. That's finding number 1. Go clean up your schema. And it has to be hard-coded schema. It can't be Java-led schema because the AI bots don't trigger Java. And if you didn't know what that means, I didn't know what that means either. Go ask your web designer. But get somebody to do hard-coded schema on your website, especially if you have deep information. That would be like e-commerce, SaaS, like product specifications, those types of things. Schema. Okay, schema is important. Leave that to the eggheads. It gets deeper, though. And this should blow your mind. This is the part that blew my mind, dude. ChatGPT's overlap with Google is, from memory, it's something like 50% on average. It's like 40 to 60%, depending on the query and the category. Perplexity's overlap with Google is something like 60 to 80%, average 70%. Guess what Gemini, which is a Google-owned property for those that don't know, guess what Gemini's overlap is with Google?
30%.
In this example, it's 0.
Wow.
It's 0. On average, 25%. Guess what that means? If you really think through, this is what I think it means. Google is not using Google Search Graph.
No.
Google is not using Google Search Graph. ChatGPT and Perplexity are just searching Google faster than you can. So the reason that Gemini sucks, nobody's favorite AI is Gemini. You know that you probably like Claude or Perplexity or ChatGPT, but when you talk to Gemini, you feel like you're getting, it's like not done, it's not cooked, and the reason for
Yeah.
that is because ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude are searching Google faster, which means they're going to Google's very, very, very mature forest of information, and they're getting a very mature response back, and they're giving it to you. When you go to Gemini, you're getting a sapling because Google is building the knowledge graph from the ground up while everybody else is farming in Google's antiquated, soon to be obsolete, old system, their old search graph. Google is building the knowledge graph from the ground up, which also means they can rip the rug out from under all these other LLMs anytime they want. Google is the only entity on the planet. Amazon and Apple are an exception, and we can talk about why I actually don't think they can compete. Google is the only entity on the planet that actually has the information to rebuild the knowledge graph. So I'm very, very, very long on Google. I think Google wins the AI game, at least in this way, in this context, when it comes to, information delivery and gathering and training the LLM, because LLMs are information thirsty, and Google's the only entity that has it. And they have a very good habit of staying back, waiting in the wings, and letting other companies take the arrows. Look what they just did with, like, what's that thing called, Banana Panda, whatever that image generation is?
Yeah.
Banana something. Google wasn't in the image game at all. They sucked at it. And then all of a sudden you see where some of the IP lawsuits land, where some of the judgments land, where some of the legislation lands, and then in comes Google. Oh, here, by the way, here's the greatest AI-driven image generation that has ever existed. And everybody's like, where did this come from? Google does this all the time. I know this because I had a Google ads agency. I studied Google for 20 years of my life. There's a congressional hearing about Meta when Meta had 55,000 demographic and psychographic profiling factors on every human inside of its ecosystem. And they had a congressional hearing, and they had a bunch of issues and all these privacy concerns, and it's probably what triggered GDPR. When that happened, Google had 72 million demographic and psychographic profiling factors. But they were quiet about it, and Meta was loud. But there was no congressional hearing about Google. So they're staying back, is my opinion. And I would, I've only ever lost money in the stock market, but if you want my stock tip, I'd go buy Google, because I think Google's going to win this game on a long enough timeline. Now, it could take 3 to 5 years, dude, but that's what we're seeing in the LLM world.
That's why, it's funny because I told all my friends December last year, similar outcomes, but there's one other factor too. I think Google, and no one's talking about it, and Google just said, hey, we've got this thing, and you and I talked about it, and it's the Willow supercomputer, quantum computer. They've got a quantum computer. They were like, hey, we did this thing, and then crickets. And I'm like, they're just using it, right? It's like, hey, we've got a quantum computer. We're not going to sell it to anyone because it's the most powerful machine ever, and we're using it. And I think you're right on that. A couple of other factors I'm seeing, like, especially when it comes to research, and I don't know if you've seen this, is how much it's using YouTube. And
I have answers. Can I answer? I interrupted you. Keep going.
I want to see what you said on that.
A company called Profound did a study, tens of millions of actually Google-led citations, to see what AI is actually looking for in terms of value. 20% of all citations, 1 in 5 times. So there's 500 trillion websites on the internet, right? 1 out of 5 times, the citation was, guess what website?
YouTube.
Reddit. Reddit is the most important website on the internet, which makes sense because if you're an LLM, they like hierarchically structured peer-reviewed content. And Reddit doesn't just peer review the content, it peer reviews the author. So if you're a triple PhD neurosurgeon and you post something about neuroscience, you're far more likely to be prioritized. And LLMs can figure out who's smarter than who and who has the more equity in the Reddit credits. I forget what they're called. I think it's Karma.
Yeah.
So Reddit is the most important website. Now, YouTube follows as a second. 18.8% of the time, almost 19% of the time, YouTube is the citation. So between Reddit and YouTube is 40% of all AI-driven citations. However, think about this. YouTube is 19 times the size of Reddit. And yet Reddit still leads YouTube, which means Reddit is exponentially more powerful.
Interesting.
Because pound for pound, Reddit has 1/19 of the amount of content that YouTube has, and yet it still leads it in citations. And so if you really want to get out ahead of the curve, go crack the code on Reddit. Start loving on people on Reddit. The thing about Reddit that's dangerous, dude, is Reddit is brutal. It's a bunch of 13-year-old ultra genius incels they're just mad. They're mad and they're angry and they're cruel and they're biting. You can't fake the funk on Reddit. You can't outsource Reddit to your, social media intern. You can't try to seed your brand and be sneaky. They will catch you. It has to be value first. But if you can do that, Reddit just became the most important website on the internet.
Interesting. Because I'm nowhere near the data, but what I'm finding, like, as far as, especially for ranking in the Google AI assisted search, is YouTube, which it's really strange how it's picking it up, and then media and podcasts, etc. Mentions it's like becoming links.
Yeah, dude. So an Instagram mention is, God, you're so smart, dude. You've already cracked the code on all this. Instagram is now indexable. Podcasts that are indexable. Yeah. If somebody comments, if somebody writes a review, those are the new equivalent to links, because LLMs they can intuit a brand. They don't need a URL. So if somebody's like, man, I worked with Ian Garlic and he created great video case stories for me, it doesn't need you to link back to videocasestory.com in order to provide the value that a link would provide. And then LLM goes, oh, that's great. The other thing that's really crazy is some of the citations I'm seeing, LLMs search like 80-year-old women. You'll see Yellow Pages, MapQuest, TripAdvisor, BBB, dude. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the BBB. The BBB is now relevant again. Nextdoor.com. Yeah. Like, it likes peer-reviewed content. It likes reviews. It likes people saying things, and it prefers people to brands. I learned this the hard way. A lot of my data is flawed for this reason. I asked an LLM, who's the greatest Google Ads miner on the planet? And the LLM said John Moran, obviously. Because everybody knows John Moran's the greatest Google Ads miner on the planet because he's peer-reviewed and he's all over Reddit. Here's what's interesting, is if you ask an LLM a Google Ads question, I forgot the question. It was something about attribution. The article it delivered was, I don't remember, let's say it was Search Engine Journal. It delivered Search Engine Journal because that particular Search Engine Journal article cited John Moran. Now, this is why this is interesting. Because if you studied that from the outside looking in, not knowing that John Moran is the expert, you would think the LLM assumed Search Engine Journal was a high-value resource. But nay, it knew John Moran was the expert and so simply chose the Search Engine Journal website for that reason, which makes it a meta endeavor. Just because a citation shows up doesn't mean that it's the website. We're primed to think URL. Look at the website and see who's the person. LLMs prefer people to brands 1,000 times to 1, because a person can get a PhD, a person can can write a book, a person is an expert, a brand is a brand. So what that also means is between Video Case Story and Ian Garlic, you got to start indexing towards Ian Garlic, which sucks for a lot of reasons. Makes it harder to sell, harder to build brand equity, harder to remove yourself. But LLMs like people, dude. They like people.
It makes complete sense, and I'm seeing it too. And like being on podcasts, the more you're out there on media, the more it's talked about on media, and also the influence of the podcast, it will affect, it actually reverse, and what I've seen is, like, when we've put stuff on podcasts, referring back to a story on a website, or referring to something that's like a client's website, it actually ranks the website now better. Like you said, there doesn't have to be a link back, because it knows. Yep. And the other aspect of it too is how much data YouTube has on all of us, on how much we're viewing something, how much we're clicking on something as a person. Because I can't tell how much you read of a website. You can kind of tell, but not really. YouTube, I know, exactly, right? And Google had to deal with ChatGPT, and I think that, like you said, they're going to pull the rug out from under it once they figure it out. And
anytime they want, dude.
Yeah, it's true. And one, I want to get the guest one more, because I was gonna make a video on this, but you made the video first, and it's super smart. You thought of it, and I thought of it, so that it's got to be super smart. I'm kidding. Is YouTube selling for Hormozi? Because I get sick of, I mean, honestly, the Hormozi thing, I'm like, great, he did an awesome job. But like you said, it wasn't, everyone's like, oh my God, this is the biggest thing ever. I'm like, yeah, but he had been selling that for years.
Yeah.
Explain to me your viewpoint on how he sold 100 million, because it wasn't in a day.
I'll preface with I love Alex.
Yeah.
I think he's probably the sharpest entrepreneur working right now. I think he's extraordinary, and he's worth following. You know, he's the Michael Jordan dude in the entrepreneurial world. And so that preface aside, everybody's running around being like, Alex Hormozi made $105 million a day in a day. And it's like, no, he did not. Alex made $105 million in 7 years.
Yep.
That man spent the last 7 years of his life giving so obsessively, it was actually overwhelming. He built more brand equity than any person I've ever seen on the internet. And it's not a new play. Gary Vee did it. Cody Sanchez did it. Ryan Dice did it. It's the jab, 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 right hook, right? It's give, and then make an ask. But Alex did it more, longer, and bigger than any human's ever done it. And he built this huge audience that loved him, and he had all this brand equity with that audience. And so when he finally showed up with an ask, everybody was like, dude, take my money.
Yep.
So, was the launch extraordinary? Yeah, absolutely. But you can't properly, and I'm an attribution guy. I've spent $100 million of other people's money every year for I don't know how many years. I've got $1 billion in ad spend under my belt. I can tell you, you have to play the attribution game. And if you went back and you looked at Alex, if you looked at his model and you attributed that $105 million to first touch, when did he actually acquire this person? It wouldn't have been in a day. It would have been over the course of 7 years, which, by the way, is still very impressive.
Yeah.
But it's not what people are saying. You have to look past the, it's the Tony Robbins model, dude.
Yeah.
Tony is so funny in that way because he likes to, if you listen to Tony's tapes, and I like Tony a lot, but Tony used to say, I made $500 million in a day. And it's when his company went public. And it's like, all right, dude, come on. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? How long did it take you to build the company before you could take it public? It's not, it's not the inflection point that counts. It's the buildup. It's the attribution. So yeah, I love Alex. And he didn't make $105 million in a day. He made $105 million in 7 years by giving more value than any human's ever done it. And to the point that you like to make, Iron Garlic, he did it on YouTube.
Yeah.
All the value that Alex gave. Everything else was a feeder to YouTube. All of his other content elsewhere goes to YouTube. YouTube is the undiscovered bastion still of the internet. The average time on YouTube, I'll say it this differently. The average time on every website on the internet, average is 90 seconds.
Yep.
Average time on YouTube is 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
You can't even begin to hyperbolize that impact. It's insane. YouTube is the most important content repository for so many. It's the second largest search engine on the planet. It's also the place where it's middle of the funnel. People don't realize that. YouTube is middle of the funnel, which is a really, 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 really important distinction. It's where people go to get educated to buy. At Solutions 8, I spent $150,000 to $250,000 a month for 2 years in YouTube, and I knew my sales cycle was 7 months long. But if I got you, 7 months later, you're going to be a client. And that's why we kept pouring money into YouTube. So if you want to know where to go, create content on YouTube and advertise on YouTube.
To your point, it's because it is middle of the funnel, and people are like, well, I don't know if from my friend Greg Hickman, once in a while, someone will say, I watched this video on YouTube and that's made me do it. But you're not going to get a lot of people that it's not an opt-in machine. It's not like Facebook ads, right? And that's where I think the advantage is, because everyone wants the attribution. Everyone wants the attribution. I'm like, and we're getting back to a point where you're just not going to have it. And I just think it's a huge opportunity. It's where people spend time. I think websites are dying between ChatGPT and YouTube. No one wants to be on your website.
Right. Dude, here's the thing. We're going to end up in a screenless world, number one. If you think through AI all the way, we're screenless for sure. Number two, my son's in a coding camp right now at a place called iCode. It's a little franchise, and they're teaching him HTML and CSS. And I hadn't thought about this, and I wouldn't have, except that my son is learning it. And I remember thinking, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, stupid. Why are you going to need CSS? We're not building websites for people anymore. You don't need the visual, you need the data. The future of web, and I might be skipping steps here, but this is where we get It's not going to be websites for Kasim and I, and we're never going to go there.
No.
It's going to be database repositories of information that LLMs crawl, and then they'll visualize for you.
Yep. And we're almost, I mean, we're getting there closer and closer every day. And most people, anyone under 40, and definitely under 30, does not want to be on a website. And, you know, and you see it, like you said, the times, 90 seconds. And yet, when I talk to clients, 70% of their conversation is about their website. I'm like, no one's going there. And if they go there, they're not spending time there. Like, how many tabs do I have open now? 100? You know, and it's like, and the amount of research you can do in your bathroom in 5 minutes. The sales cycle's changed. And all the selling happens before you ever talk to someone. Oh, this has been awesome. So hiring, AI, YouTube. Where should everyone follow you? Is it YouTube for you? Besides getting the book.
They can go to Kasim.me, Kasim.me. That's where you can get my book for free. You can join my free community. You can follow me on YouTube. All my links are there. And everything's free.
And he does brilliant stuff. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. His business acquisition thing, I've mentioned it to a few people, but it's brilliant. Kasim, you were the best. Thank you for being.
I love you, buddy. Thanks for listening, everybody.
And folks, make sure to go follow him, join his community, tell him you saw him here, tell him how smart and beautiful he is, because he needs it, and tell him he's still tall.
Dude, for those of you listening, if you don't know, Ian is 50 feet tall. He is, and he's built like a linebacker. He's so intimidating. It's just, it's obnoxious. I think, who do you think you are? Where do you get off?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all for making Kasim and I part of your story. It's been Ian Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.